So no one waiting at all. What's going on, everybody? It's me, it's RDV, and I'm here with LK. And
Hello, hello.
and we're not doing a reading with LK today. He's actually showing off comic books today.
Yeah, I asked RDV if I could do it because people always like seeing stuff, and I had a good time at a local convention here this past weekend. So I live in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and this was the annual SpaCon convention, seventh year. So they're still kind of growing with that. And it's become now it's not just a comic book convention. I mean, I would say probably that's the minority part of it. There's anime stuff and all the cosplay stuff, and you name it, whatever you normally find like nowadays in a pop culture convention.
Yeah, I saw you got like there was a sci-fi stuff going on. Yeah, like
Sci-fi stuff. I know like this was the second year in a row. They've had like vehicles parked on one side of the convention floor. That's like oh hey, here's Dean Winchester's car from Supernatural, or shoot, I forget what it was this year. So they've had a couple of those things. Like the main guests this year were if you recognize Annabeth Gish, who most known coming in those latter seasons of the X-Files, and then Orlando Jones, who's done a ton of stuff. I remember him from Evolution, that movie with David Duchovny.
That clip's always popping up where he's like, take the leg.
Yeah. And then of course, and also Mad TV, which was great back in the day. So, but it was a good time. I did sit in Jerry Bingham, who's a longtime comic book artist, did the first Batman graphic novel, that Batman Son of the Demon, with Mike W. Barr. So that was good. I sat in on his panel and talked to him for a bit. So it was a good time. And did find some comic book and memorabilia.
Nice.
Taking my money there. Okay. So let's see. Might as well kick this off. I'll kind of go a little bit just like in kind of like the days that I got it, and I'll hold off the big prizes here at the end. So I'm just going to show off these cards first. There was one place, that there were multiple places that had like toys and stuff, but these caught my eye because if you can see behind me there, I've got my X-Men 97 set up. And so he had, if you've seen the, Kenner Hasbro Marvel Legends figures. Mm-hmm. So, I was able to get a, Carol Danvers and an Iceman one. And so now they're part of the display over there. I don't know how far I can drag that.
I was gonna say you just bought the backer board.
Yeah, no. So you can see right now that Carol's kind of posed there, trying to take out the Sentinel's head, and Iceman's in kind of his familiar pose. So
that was in front of guys.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, what I like to find, because it's funny too. I mean, one of the other things that the convention has is there's a big Lego. Arkansas Lego group, and so they take the downstairs lobby and make these gigantic Lego layouts. You would have loved one because somebody basically did like the Battle of Hoth.
Wow!
And I mean, it was huge, and I think it had either 4 or 5 AT-ATs, including they had one positioned where it looked like it had gotten shot down, so it was down on its front 2 legs.
I wouldn't even walk in there because I've seen the videos where people knock it over. It's just like gone. It's like,
yeah. But I mean that one was amazing. But I noticed like they had these like kind of little clear plexiglass, little tiny stands. So they wanted to show something that's kind of like flying. It would be perched on there, and with it being clear plexiglass, it kind of gives you that illusion.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind finding a couple of those to be able to like position Rogue like in a flying pose instead of like trying to hang something with fishing line. But that's that's a ways away.
You can hang the plexiglass from fishing line and have behind you. Lucy gets kind of swinging back and forth.
Yeah, but I know here's what everybody came for. So I found this one pretty good booth. I will say, I mean, one difference this year so I've gone to 3. My first one was 2019. And, back then it was a lot easier to kind of make deals in bargains.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, that was where I was able to get a couple of really good She-Hulk books. And, before the big boom kind of on the She-Hulk side hit, and I was able to talk the guy down like, $15, $20 total off the ones.
Nice.
Basically could not find that here. I went to this one guy, wound up buying about 15 or so books, and the total was like, 110. I'm like, well, how about 90? And he's like, oh, I can do 100. I'm like, I already have the books. And it's like, okay, that seems fair. But then they charged me tax on top of it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. And it's funny too. They were the only stand that charged tax.
Jeez.
So I didn't know what their problem was, but I still got some pretty good books. So kicking off here,
I assume everyone's gonna charge me tax, But I mean, if you say this is $29.99 or like, and then you charge me like an extra $5 in tax, I'm gonna say no, you can keep it.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. I'm not used to that at all in conventions. Conventions, in my experience, are always nice round dollar figures for the most part, or maybe something 50 cents.
Yeah.
And then of course it's also normal too. Plenty of places where, hey, if you pay cash, it's X. If you're doing credit, we're going to charge you an extra 2%, 3%
for the fee. Good for using the credit card machine. Yeah.
Yeah. So to kick off here, I've got X-Men 218.
Nice.
So nice.
Not a fan of the Beehive or whatever it's supposed to be on Rogue.
Rogue. Well, I would say that's more of like her hair kind of flying because she's in the air, but it's a nice, Art Adams cover. Let's see there. Try and get the glare off. Then followed that up with X-Men 256.
Cool.
So Mandarin and Psylocke. And then 257. So I think that completes the 2-part story. And then one I was able to pick up here that I know people will recognize from the stream because he's had it in the auction at least twice and usually has gone for ridiculous amounts. So I was happy to find it at a reasonable price. Is the Power Girl Justice Society number 9. So yes, I more or less paid $8. When you take the 10, maybe it's like $7.90 on that one. But then I was also able to get number 10. So now I've got, my full set of Alex Ross Justice Society covers.
Wait. The Power Girl's $8, but the Superman is
Is $3? Yeah. Well, I mean, come on.
Gender equality. Where's that?
Yeah. Marania, that's interesting. So, well, let's see. There's a lot of pirates then at SpotCon, we'll say. So another one I was happy to find was this Fantastic Four number 15. Now this is, we'll call it, technically I think it's volume 3. This was when they came back from the Heroes Reborn. And this was when Chris Claremont was writing Fantastic Four. So, and I really enjoyed that run. I had a couple of gaps in there, so I was happy to find.
Before Tom DeFalco took over or after Tom DeFalco?
It had to be before.
Okay.
I mean, well, although I thought DeFalco wrote it quite a while before that, but
okay, I wasn't sure when he stopped, and so Claremont wrote towards the end of the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then let's see, when we get these in chronological order, I was able to find better copies to update my Excalibur collection. Cool. So here's number 3 and number 6 with a wild cover.
I haven't seen those in a while.
Yeah. Here's number 7 from the Inferno.
I remember going to my shops and they used to have a bunch of those. Now they're like gone.
Yeah. And number 9.
I think people are discovering there's better X-Men in the bag issues.
And then number 27. So good stuff there. I was able to find a Peter David Incredible Hulk that I needed in the list. So there's 381.
That's cool.
And then I was able to pick up a couple, or let's see, 3 Justice Leagues here towards the latter run. So I can't remember. I think I had these on the want list because I think George Perez does the interior art on these. So this is 249. So you can see Gypsy looking a little dry there.
I think they're all a little dry there.
Yeah. Here's 253 with a nice, look here on Batman.
Cool.
And then the last issue, the final chapter, 261.
Nice.
There's also a Legends crossover. So I was happy to get those. But then for me, one of the highlights was able to find 3 of the 4 remaining Machine Man books that I needed. So here's issue number 15. And you have Machine Man going up against helping out the Fantastic Four.
Well, the torch is useless.
Right. It's on the cover. I don't see who's on the cover on that one. And then here's number 16 with the Machine Man going up against Baron Brimstone. And then the second to last issue, which is number 18. And the last couple of issues here are kind of hard to get because of the low print run. But I mean, what's great about that series is it starts out with, Jack Kirby doing the art, and then Steve Ditko comes in the later issues. And it's just a fun series. And I was really happy to find him.
That's crazy, going from Kirby art to going to Ditko art. It's like if Ditko came back on Spider-Man after Romita took over, and here you go.
Yeah. So this I found at a different stand, but I was happy because it's one of the 3 Marvel team ups that I had on my want list. And so this is Marvel team up number 68.
Cool. You got a Man Thing.
And the Man Thing. And of course it's on my want list because this is a John Byrne cover. And this is when John Byrne and Chris Claremont were doing the Marvel team ups.
He says, I remember getting the original Excalibur trade paperback with the first trade back for Captain America miniseries, and I believe an Akira trade paper book through Marvel at Worldcon 1989 as giveaway promotions. Ronnie, I was 4 years old when you did that.
I wonder how much those trades are worth, especially if there's some indicator that they were at Worldcon.
Mind your P's and Q's. Comic Crypt of Castle Hills got a kick off YouTube this morning. No warnings, no strikes, just wiped out.
Wow. I wonder if somebody decided to kind of attack him.
I imagine. That's why we avoid politics on here. Because people are extra sensitive. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So, and this was the last buys on Saturday. This was another stand that, of course, I wound up coming back to, and I'll show you at the end. They were basically doing a buy one, get the second 50% off. So again, not a lot of wiggle room, but with the 50% off, it was decent. So I was able to track down 4 that were interesting. So first off, I'll show you Miss Marvel number 5.
Always a fun cover.
It's the Carol Danvers Miss Marvel.
Always reminds me of the Superman where he's catching the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a great cover. And then of course I got a nice John Byrne Fantastic Four. So this is 286 with the appearances, of course, from the X-Men and dealing with the Phoenix. And this is actually the second appearance of X Factor, which is kind of one of the minor keys for this. And then next up is issue 50 of All-Star Squadron, which is a Crisis crossover. And looks great. And I love the fact of the Infinity Inc. Characters on there as well. So just good fun.
50 issues of ass.
Yep. And then last and certainly not least, they had X-Men 166, which is the first appearance of Lockheed. And I thought, this was in pretty good condition. And so I wasn't, too bothered about.
Wait, so he was during the Brood Saga?
Yeah. So there's Kitty there at the end. So yeah, so I was happy to find that. And as I say, I thought, to me, again, my untrained eye, I thought, it looked at least like a 7. Kind of the top corners are a little rounded, but I didn't see any like spine ticks on the side, and the cover itself looked pretty good. So that was Saturday. So of course, go back Sunday. And here, just to break it up a little bit, I dropped by this one vendor, and she was doing something really clever. She's taking recycled comic books and basically taking panels out of them and making them into coasters.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's a woman who's got a business here in Arkansas. And when I saw a couple, I just couldn't resist. And I'm like, well, you know what? These will make, great coasters for, down here and,
actually comics number one
in my comic book room. And I mean, what's nice is they're all kind of different. I mean, you had this list and picked out. So like the first one here is a coaster. And this is from the Mystery Science Theater 3000 comic book series from, God, what was that now? 2 years ago, I think. I think it was 2 years ago. So nice Crow-T robot.
It looks modern.
Yeah. The second one here, I'm not sure the book. I mean, I want to say might be New Avengers, but I liked it because you got a nice picture of Jessica Drew.
Yeah, I'd say that's New Avengers. Because Luke Cage is only appearing in Rainbow Rowell's.
Yeah. So in this third one here, might be a little hard to see, but just a nice full on Batgirl
on the Batcycle. That's cool.
Yeah. And then the last one is a personal favorite of mine because I've probably mentioned on a stream a time or two. I'm a really big fan of the X-Force / Ecstatics series that Mike Allred and Peter Milligan have done. And so when I saw this one, I couldn't resist because here's a nice dupe with Daredevil.
What's his name? Poog or Spoog? I can't remember what his name is.
It's Dupe. Doop.
Dupe. Okay.
Dupe. Yep.
I remember it being some weird name. That's all.
The maybe extraterrestrial sidekick in the Ecstatics team.
It looks like Slimer reimagined from Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Marani's absolutely right. It might work well for those coasters and mats. Bendis Superman run and Tom King's Heroes in Crisis. The art in those is amazing. Just try to cut around the words. And you know what? I would add certain panels from Wonder Woman #1.
I gotta say the art was great all the way through the whole entire book. It's just that the writing, you take out the writing, the book is actually decent.
Yeah.
It's like our comic book readings. You just mute us and you can actually read the comic yourself.
Yeah. So the next stand that I went back to on Saturday, it's a really cool place. So they have a Facebook page and it's called Comic Rec. And I'll tell you, if you're looking for 11 by 17 posters of anything pop culture, it's worth giving them a check out, as well as if there's, the guy touts the fact that, they've also got huge amount of manga, 80% of it's out of print, and if they don't have it, probably nobody does, sort of thing. But I wound up getting a couple of posters, and what was really cool was they had a comic section. And you know how we've talked a time or two on streams, imploring DC and Marvel. It's like, you know what? You guys are missing out on a huge revenue stream by not putting your covers out in a poster size. Well, I don't know how legitimate we'll say they are, but he had a ton of, most of them were DC covers. There were a few Marvels here and there, but a lot of superhero type posters. And one struck me as, I'm a Zatanna fan. And I mean, here's an 11 by 17 blow up of her, special #1. And so I can't wait to
put fishnets. It's hard to tell.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of sort of. I mean, it's a great cross hatching. If you actually look at it, it's more of almost looks like a fingerprint.
Okay.
Because of the way that the it's kind of weight.
Oh, okay, now I can see it. Okay. Otherwise, I'm like, she's just wearing this like jeggings.
Yeah, but I mean, it was cool for 2 reasons. I mean, A is Zatanna, and it might actually wind up going
an empty spot next to Girls Fight.
Yeah, no, I haven't put that up yet. Put that back up. The artwork that Trusty did for me that had Zatanna and Night Vale from FemForce.
You took it down because you're embarrassed. I know.
Yeah, but it's also a really good story. It's one of my favorite Zatanna stories because it goes through and kind of details her origin, and it's about trying to find her mother and things like that. So in this other one that I got, it's going to go along with my Venture Brothers poster from
nice,
from the recent DVD release. So yeah, it was really cool. Decent prices, as I said. It's a good store. And then the other thing, I happened to mention the guy because there's one manga series that I kind of fell in love with, but it's been out of print and the books are ridiculously hard to get. And I said, hey, have you heard of the manga series Iron Walk Yan? He's like, oh, are you kidding? He goes to this box and pulls out the back and he goes, oh, here you go. And I mean, yeah, it's not totally pricey. It just feels that way. But I mean, I couldn't resist when he pulled it out. So here's volume 27 of Iron Walk Yan. So yes, I did pay $16 for it. But in my defense, I mean, retail price back in the day was, $10. But I mean, for those that are curious, it's similar to Food Wars, but not quite. It's closer to like the food battle shows that you see like on Food Network or some of the Gordon Ramsay food battle shows. It's basically Yan here on the cover. His grandfather was a famous chef and he becomes a chef, but he's also just an asshole basically. And goes to work at this small restaurant and then winds up getting in these various kitchen battles. But it has kind of the same over the top stuff if you like, Food Wars. And yeah, it was a series that I read probably 6-7 years ago. And so, to find a volume for that was pretty cool. Let's see, almost done here. So went over to this other stand, and this was the guy that I kind of mentioned on Saturday night that, was one of the couple places that had like these $2 boxes, but the guy basically all his $2 books were not in bags and stuff. But as I started kind of going through, I was like, oh, okay. I decided, hey, you know what? I can get some good reading copies of some books that I wanted. And so it turned out to be pretty good. So, like Guardians of the Galaxy, number 2 here.
That's cool.
So I can read that. Here's Guardians 21. Guardians 25.
These are all loose ones.
Yeah. And Guardians 47. And then kind of like the ones that honestly made me really happy was, I mean, again, as reading copies, these are fine. And I couldn't resist buying them. Here's a bunch of loose Sensational She-Hulk. So here's number 3. Here's number 4. Number 5. That great John Byrne art. Number 6. Number 7. Number 9, which was the first of the non-John Byrne ones. 10. 19. And 23. And then again, this was another guy that, had his stuff, let's just say, priced on the higher end. But this was a book that I really couldn't resist because it's one I had not seen before. And it had a character that I've been interested in. And again, something that you're not going to find in a reprint. So this is Giant Size Spider-Man and Doc Savage. That's Giant Size Spider-Man number 3.
Nice.
And, so it's not in great shape, but, for $10, I mean, especially compared to what a real, some of these $10 books today cost.
I want the Dracula one. We read that on the channel a couple weeks back, and I was looking at them. I was like, oh, they're so. And there's a Shang-Chi one too as well, which is a number 2.
Yeah. So and you can see their version of Doc Savage here, down here in the corner.
I love those
bronze.
Giant Size X-Men, all those ones.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I'm really curious to see how he got tangled up with Doc Savage. Oh, Eric says, finally, we have my Okay. So, and then the final two things. So, after talking to Eric and talking to you and talking to Englentine, you kind of convinced me. I went back to that vendor, and this was the same vendor that was doing the buy one get one, half off.
Yeah.
So the half off is probably, I'm going to say probably around maybe a 5, but this is X-Men 111.
Oh, nice.
So X-Men taking on Arcade.
You need the one where he takes on Arcade's sister.
And then the one that was the Siren's Call that I could not resist. Here is X-Men 96.
Nice.
As you can see, as best as I can tell, it is signed by Chris Claremont. So, and it's, I will say, this is the most I've paid for a comic book in quite some time. So
150?
No, 100.
Oh, okay.
It's 100. So, and yeah, I mean, when I kind of looked, and that's the thing. I mean, when I kind of looked at the condition, I looked at kind of like my comic shop and stuff. It was like, okay, that seems, decent. And talking to the guys, the way they kind of explained it to me, it was part of a collection that they bought. And again, I also kind of looked at some Claremont signatures online, and near as I can tell, it looks like him. So I figured, it's my birthday. I'll take the chance and see.
See, I like to have a sign where it's not on the cover, where it's like, it's like I love looking at the cover. It's like you sign. It's like no.
well, it's funny. I mean, you mentioned that I do have an Alpha Flight #1 that's signed. Well, I'll say, as far as I know, it's signed by John Byrne.
Yeah.
But he signed it on the first interior page. So he signed it at the bottom of page 1.
Because I'm like, because I've shops, I see them. It's like you don't know if it says signed comics, but I'm like, none of them there can verify if he actually is like the person it is. They just kind of a collection.
Yeah.
So, but they're like trying to sell for more money. I was like, dude, there's no certificate. I don't know if it is, but even then, it's like, I just think it's like it's like getting a brand new comic book and then your brother writes all over it.
Yeah. So I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, I'm seriously thinking about sending that one and sending the signed George Perez JLA Avengers I have into CGC, to see, because honestly, I mean, I'm probably not gonna crack the pages on those.
No.
And of course, I mean, the worst thing would be is them come back and say, "Oh, sorry, these aren't their signature." I'd be like, "Okay, well, great." But
I've been hearing a lot of people complaining about CGC lately. They're sending their books in. They did before and then after books, and they saw that whoever's handling their book is
doing a bad job.
Yeah, basically. So it's always and that's the thing. It's always a gamble. You give your books to somebody else.
Yeah,
it could be damaged during transit, or at the place. And these places, like I would hope that they if somebody damages the book, they'll admit to it. But I mean,
you'd hope that.
Yeah, it's you don't know, but man, like then there's the other one. There's your CGC, and then there's, I forget what the other one's called. CBC. I can't.
What was it? I almost I say like CBCS or something, but
yeah.
I know there's a second one. So, but yeah, it was overall, it was interesting. I mean, as I say, there were probably one or two fewer, I'll say, primary comic vendors than say back in 2019. So it's probably going to continue to dwindle, but we'll see. It was also kind of just a little disappointing there weren't as many artists there as one the prior kind of 2 conventions I had, but again, overall it was fun. Went to some fun panels.
Anybody from like Star Trek or anything like that, TV shows?
No, I mentioned before. I mean, the basically the 3 kind of quote unquote headline folks were Annabeth Gish, most well known from the latter seasons, The X-Files, and then Orlando Jones, and then the woman in from Black Panther that played Okoye.
Okay.
The bald-headed defender, and I'm blanking on her name. I know it starts with a J, but I don't want to get it wrong.
Was Mr. T there? Yes,
no,
yes, Dave.
No, Mr. T wasn't there. So yeah, well then I guess to one other guest, but he's been here quite a bit because he's a local Arkansan, Roger Bumpus, who did a bunch of voices in SpongeBob SquarePants, and then he also I didn't realize too, but he also did the voice of the Chief in the Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego cartoon that was on Fox back in the 90s.
Wow.
So he's
I gotta say, even though I was a kid back then, I never watched that cartoon. I watched the show. I watched the actual live game show. I watched that.
Oh, the game show, yeah. No, well, I mean, the game show was good and a classic, but the Fox cartoon was actually really, really good. I actually caught it recently on one of these Saturday morning YouTube streams.
Oh yeah, what you were talking about, but they just air the cartoons and reruns.
Yeah.
So. I don't know how they're still up when they're like, these are not public domain shows. They're like on YouTube. YouTube is like they're so anal retentive about what you cannot say and post. So I'm surprised that channel's still up.
Yeah.
I mean, people are trying to get Internet Archive down.
Yeah. Let's see. That's right. Yeah. So it was Janisha Adams Ginyard.
Okay.
And I think it's Okoye is how you pronounce it. It was the character that she played, but she's also actually been a stunt woman and has done some wrestling. So,
oh, nice.
A really interesting individual. So,
the only thing I got here today is my friend brought me back my copy of this.
So, Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. Now they dropped the pizza place.
Yeah, but yeah, dude, I forgot that Nathan Fillion was on here. It's his first start. So, yeah, I remember watching this when I was live and it was on air on Fox. So it's just to see how sitcoms have changed over the years, man. But no. I watched the whole entire first season, and now I'm going through the second season, and wow, it's just crazy to see Ron Reynolds actually being funny back then.
That's where it was him. So
Ron Reynolds.
Let's see. Just to correct something, I stand corrected. She was one of the Dora Milaje, so she wasn't Okoye. It just looked that way, and that was what I just reminded on the poster because it showed her, as one of the bald-headed characters. So sorry for all the people out there that are fans of Black Panther and Okoye that I got that incorrect. So, but here we are to at least correct the record. So
right,
yeah.
So we are 33 minutes into the stream. I'm like, I knew this was gonna be a short stream because I'm. Like, I know you probably, you spent all your money on that one book. You could have got like 20 more books.
Oh, I got quite a bit. As I say, I spent too much money, but
I like the coasters though. The problem with me is I love looking at those coasters. Oh, it's cool, but I'll never use them because I'm the only one. Unless you have a party over, you're never going to see those coasters. They're like just stacked in the corner. That's why I've never bought I have one coaster for here and then a coaster for another room, and that's it.
Well, see, I've got my upstairs and downstairs, so I can keep a couple of these downstairs here in the cave, and then put a couple others upstairs and where the comic book room is. But
how much they run you for those?
So they were $5 each, or in this case, 4 for $18.
Okay.
So I think very reasonable, for that kind of.
Hope they don't stain your stuff early. Get careful when you set things down.
Not really. I mean, if you feel it, it's like a really hard like ceramic. Yeah, you can kind of see how it reflects there. So,
Okay,
nice,
that's cool.
nice cork background there. So yeah. So and
I
it's
wonder
funny.
how much that person ranks in, like, per convention. She goes to other conventions.
I'm sure she does. I mean,
because Hot Springs isn't the only one. There's another convention center, isn't there?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, they're dotted, kind of all over the place. I mean, of course, Little Rock's the biggest, and we had the Arkansas Comic Con that was a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That if I'd been feeling better, I probably would have dragged myself to it because, well, of course, I found out too late that Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini and the rest of the Iconics comics were there, and so that kind of bummed me out, although it wasn't as bad because, as I say, I was feeling pretty lousy. If I'd been feeling good, I probably would have pulled the trigger to drive up there at least on a.
I wonder if he let you in. Like, it's not California, but like, this guy's coming, he's hiking. I was like, all the variants going on.
Nobody gives you a second glance around here, which is great. So, we're very high up on the freedom and liberty scale, which is.
Are you guys open carry?
Oh, yeah. What are you talking about? Permitless, open, and concealed carry.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I've actually got to I got to decide actually if I'm gonna wind up keeping my M&P Shield as my carry gun, or if I'm gonna get something else.
Get the John Lake shotgun.
Yeah. Well, what kills me is the latest issue of American Rifleman. They had on the front cover.
With the scope. With the scope.
Smith & Wesson's come out with that new 22.
Yeah, I just got that one in the mail yesterday.
Because I love just plinking with 22s. I don't want to get the stream banned, otherwise I'd go grab my true pride and joy. It's a pistol that I purchased off of my.
We're gonna move the Rumble for this extra segment.
Yeah, but if you look it up, I have a high standard. Which one is it? I think it's the high standard military. So it's a 22 pistol. It actually has the weight on the end of the barrel, and that thing is you just point and pull the trigger and just boom, boom, boom. You just tight group in a target. It's just awesome. And then of course I go and shoot my 9mm. I'm all over the place. So
Eric, comic book convention keeping someone out because of a variant. That's ironic.
So, but I know I know there's at least one other Arkansas con, because I think Tim and Mark have mentioned going to that one as well. I think that one's up more in the Northwest, and I'm sure that Fayetteville, which is in the Northwest. I think Fayetteville's probably at least 2 hours away.
I only know of them. Like, they go to them when you just talk to Little Rock, or what was the one you said? It was Arkansas convention, the big state convention, when they have that. They go to that one, and I know they go to the one in Texas.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, I know the big one for them the last couple of years has been Bell City Comic Con in Texas. So honestly, that's one. I mean, from looking at how much fun that one is, that's one I wouldn't mind trying to get to one year. But
so, how big is this convention center that you went to? Is it like a size of a gymnasium in a high school, or is it bigger than that?
It's much bigger than that. So it's actually kind of a convention complex. So it's real interesting, actually. On one end, we have the Ozark Bank Arena. So it's probably about 4 or 5,000 seat arena. So they have hosted state volleyball tournaments and all kinds of stuff. And that's actually where they have the video game tournament. That's also one of the other pieces to the convention every year. Are
you going to that one?
No, I've popped my head in, but let's see. I mean, the last couple of years has been, with Smash Brothers. This year was Street Fighter 6. I'm absolutely horrific at fighting games, so that's but then you kind of walk down the corridor into kind of like where the first part of the convention center is, and they've got 4 large halls. So, I mean, there was probably, let's see, 1, 2, 3. There were probably at least, I think, 60 tables, 60 table plus.
Next year, we're gonna have to get you to take photos.
Yeah.
So we can see get out your 80s video camera.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got from 2001. I still have my Sony 8 millimeter or whatever the format was back then. I can't remember it's the little tiny cassettes.
Yep.
And so then you've got kind of like the grand lobby area, and then you go up a flight of stairs, and that's kind of like where the minor conference rooms are. So that's where like some of the panels were hosted and some of the other stuff. And then you walk a little bit further down, and that's kind of like where the main I don't know what you call not hall, but I mean it's got a stage, and I'm blanking on words right now. Kind of like a convention stage, and where you could show like movies and other
Sony Super 8.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty good size. I mean, Hot Springs is not bad size wise. I mean, we've got the Oakland racetrack here that hosts the Arkansas Derby every year, and that's now become a casino hotel complex.
Yeah, I always go to I always try to stop in my state fair when they ever have, because there's always a guy who has the comic book posters, like you need to show it, the blown up as Zatanna. They have stuff like that, but only they have that. It's not just comic book stuff. It's just like all nerd stuff. Whether it goes to cars, movies, all that stuff.
Same with this place. I said the business is called Comic Rec, WRECK. And yeah, it had all that stuff. Plus, he had these other kind of posters that show, like if a show had a theme song, so it was like a song poster. So it had like the lyrics of the song on the poster, along with like an image. There was like a watermark behind it or whatever. Those were kind of interesting, but
I love going to flea markets, and sometimes discovering stuff. I haven't been one in a while because it's been kind of a hectic year, but I think the last one I went to was like the up in here at Madison, and they had all the movie posters, like all the old ones blown up and on cardboard stuff for posters, and then you have, because it's a flea market, because or I guess indoor flea market.
Yeah,
everyone has charging you more money than you should for comic books.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing here. We actually have a lot of kind of flea market, antique mall type places.
Yep.
Yeah, there's one big antique mall place here, where you can buy a stall and then just sell whatever.
So always expect to pay more for the antique malls. I've learned that. I was like,
oh yeah, the few times that I've seen like comic books in there, it's just been outrageously expensive.
Well, and I love it when I always come across comic books that are loose, that are not even in bag and boards, and they're just kind of like falling over, and you're like, you want $5 for this?
Yep.
Dude, the corner's completely bent over the cover, and it's just like, no. And like, the funny part is that a lot of these aren't even Marvel and DC. I see a lot of people are trying to hawk. They're trying to hawk very independent books. I'm 38. There's a lot of indie books I've never seen. I'm sure there's probably quite a few you just don't remember. You probably saw them one time and said, like, no, I'll go over here into these other better looking ones. But it's like basically like I say indie, it's like getting a random comic book off a Kickstarter you don't know nothing about, and then they want you to pay twice as much what you think it's worth, But
yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I love going out to flea markets, every once in a while. I go with my brother-in-law.
Yeah, I want to hit a couple around here, so because I know actually there's a local guy who's got a YouTube channel. He's called the Arkansas Picker, and but he's mostly buying like video games and toys and stuff. But he actually had a small booth at the convention selling some video games and stuff. Yeah. But
I had a moment where I felt old yesterday. One of my friends, she was like, what is this? It's like, get a ball from one side and you go up inside, it's Pong. I was like, it's Pong. You've never played Pong? Like, I have the actual unit to hook up the RF switch and everything.
No, I'll go one better. So my first video game system was this Radio Shack system that had 4 games in it. It was basically 4 versions of Pong in it. And you basically, it was, it was basically all one unit. It had a couple of controllers hooked with wires to it, and then basically you would just hook that into the RF, the RF switch, in the back of your TV, and so for me back on the West Coast, it was channel 4 because we had our NBC affiliate was channel 3. And that was my first video game system, and then I eventually upgraded to an Atari 2600.
It was so weird to play the Pong system because the dial was on one giant unit here, and we were getting to the other side, on that side, and the other two knobs you need to turn. It's like, you're too close to me. I'm trying to. It's like I'm not used to that. It's like when in games you can like sit like 20 feet away from everything.
Yeah.
You turn on your system as long as you have the wireless technology, but it's like, just was like, you've never heard of Pong. Like, where do you think Pong is? Like basically another version of ping pong, but it's on a kitty game. I don't know. Like, it just like blew my mind. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Marania, this was far more primitive than in television. Television was probably a good 5 years away from when I had this little Radio Shack rinky dinky thing.
Reverse.
Yeah, no, I remember I had a neighbor across the street that had Intellivision, and as a kid, I thought that was like the greatest thing in the world, but never got Intellivision. Although I did wind up getting, so there was a point where when Intellivision realized that they were dying and weren't selling, that they actually put some of their games out in 2600 cartridges, and I definitely had a few of those. So
do you know what's still the best thing in the world? What's still the best thing in the world to me is air hockey.
That's pretty good.
I'll never outgrow that. It's just fun. Air hockey, or pool.
Yeah. No, I would say give me a good sit down game. I remember, so like going to Chuck E. Cheese, two of my favorite all time games were Spy Hunter but playing in the full sit down cockpit version of it.
Is that the Rock game?
What? Oh,
the game of the Rock.
Yes. Yeah. Where you have your you call it looks like a Porsche or whatever, shooting the missiles out and avoiding the bad guys. Yeah. That was a great game. I absolutely love that game. The other one was a racing game at the time called Monaco GP. And the version that they had at Chuck E. Cheese again was the full cockpit mode. And so you're sitting there with the steering wheel and again, Monaco GP too was funny. If I remember correctly, it was similar to Spy Hunter in that you had the kind of the third person top down perspective, and it was just driving straight. So you're just kind of avoiding, the traffic and the other racers around you. But
2 weeks ago, I was at arcade and just seeing all that sit down stuff. I'm like, it's Halo. Why do I care about Halo? But it's a sit down. It has a little gunner mount. I was like, okay, now you got me. They have the Jurassic Park, the Ghostbusters.
The other great sit down one was the Star Wars.
Dude,
if you ever got a chance to play the Star Wars in the cockpit, so it felt like you were, so you could imagine yourself being inside the cockpit of an X-wing fighter, going through the canyons on the Death Star. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that made me a little bit nauseous because it shook when you got hit flying. It's just like, and you're moving. It's all free move. The chair moves with you and everything, and it's like it's a giant curved screen, goes all the way around your peripheral vision. So it's just like, man, this is like insane. Now, imagine that. Not just that, but imagine Ace Combat. Like I want it on all the games, like that.
Yeah. Well, so okay, are you the type that gets nauseous in a VR game?
I get nauseous on a boat. But normally I don't get nauseous. But I was just like, because usually I went to Dave Buster's. Me and my buddy would go get food. I don't know if it was the food or if it was a combination of the game, but I just ate October. I'm gonna sit down here, and it was a brand new experience for me. I've never had like that curved experience for as far as sitting in video games. It's just crazy, but it is cool though. I've always been a fan of the Ace Combat games. A lot of people are like, it's another Ace Combat. It's the same game over and over. But I'm like, dude, you get to fly a plane. It's something I'll never be able to do because I have glasses. You'll never be able to get you can't be a pilot if you have glasses, apparently.
Oh,
At least in the military. Yeah, I don't know if you can in commercial, but.
Well, I mean, you see enough commercial pilots wearing glasses, but again, it depends on what the level of the eyesight is. So
yeah,
I know my eyesight restricts me from ever becoming a commercial pilot. So of course, that was okay. It wasn't something I wanted to pursue. And of course, if you watch the wonderful show Air Disasters, it'll make you think twice about flying. But
now you can be a stewardess.
Careful now, flight attendant.
Wow, I'm old school.
Yeah. Well, it was funny you had up your Two Guys and a Girl DVD there because something else I got sucked into. I don't know if you've heard of the God, what do you call them? Movie distributor or for lack of a term, Kino Lorber. So they've been doing reissues of tons of movies and stuff.
Okay.
So they're not quite like on the level of say like a Criterion. They're more. I would say they're almost like a sister to Arrow Films. If you've seen like the stuff that they do, Arrow's been putting out a lot of like the martial arts films recently and other licensees. But anyway, somebody that I follow on Twitter said, "Oh, hey, Kino Lorber is having this huge sale." And I was like, "Okay, let me go take a look." And I shouldn't have looked because I wound up spending X number of dollars.
Hey, you're single. You can afford this. You don't have somebody to nag you saying,
"Yeah, sure, yeah." That's how I justify it. But because I mean the sales were just crazy. It's like discs that or movies that normally the retail price is like 30, we're going for 10. And it was just too good to resist because I was able to get kind of a combination of some really cool films, a couple of 4K releases, and then just some oddball stuff that just sounded really cool that I'd never seen before.
I always follow a Shout Factory,
Yeah. Well, again, I would say too, it's quite similar, say, to Shout Factory as well. But so like they had, I was able to get the 4K version of Needful Things for $18. And what's cool about that is it not only has the theatrical release, it has the I call TBS release. So it's the extended 190-minute version that adds a whole bunch of story and actually makes Needful Things a whole lot better. They had the Blu-ray of The Nude Bomb, which is the Return of Maxwell Smart movie that I have not seen probably in a decade plus. They had the Blu-ray special edition for Remo Williams, which I couldn't resist. Blu-ray of the Ipcris file. They had, and then a couple of interesting ones. Well, they also had another movie that I just absolutely love. Is a recent Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the Gary Oldman movie, the John le Carre novel.
Actually, Eric, if you're watching this in 4K, you're getting LK in 4K.
Yeah, I don't think either of us are broadcasting in 4K. So, but yeah, it was a pretty good sale. I'm not sure if it's still going on or not. But yeah, so I think I have pretty much spent all my money for the foreseeable future here, at least till we get to kind of the holiday season. But
yeah, like I said, I've been going through like the Internet Archive and for Eric, because Eric's been wanting me like, hey, can you find this? Can you find this old TV show? So then I find stuff. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool too. So I've been like, I went down a rabbit hole in Internet Archive. There's so much stuff that's in the public domain. There's just old TV shows you're never gonna see again. He got me watching Thriller.
Now is that the Boris Karloff?
Yeah, Boris Karloff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, where he hosted. So it's along the same lines with Night Gallery. Not so much necessarily like an Outer Limits or Twilight Zone.
Oh my gosh, I can hear him yelling. That's when he goes, ah. If you watch our readings, he has to just type it out, and I get the Alicia yell, ah.
Oh well, I mean, if you happen to come across a Man from Uncle, I wouldn't mind watching a couple, because I know if you saw Saw the sad news today. R.I.P. David McCallum. He passed away today at 90. Actually, I think he just had his 90th birthday like in the last week or so.
He was on what? CSI? What was he on?
NCIS. So
NCIS.
He was Dr. Donald Mallard, the chief medical examiner for NCIS.
I never put 2 and 2 that he was a guy from Man from Uncle. I just remember seeing in a diner and they were playing all those, Criminal Minds and all stuff. And I remember so I recognized the guy on that show, but I didn't really put 2 and 2 like, oh, Man from Uncle. And speaking from Man from Uncle, that's one of the shows I got for Eric. I got all the seasons. The man has over like 2,000 hours of entertainment to watch.
Oh wow!
Karloff. I mean, he's got Surfside 6.
Yeah. Do we lay odds on if he'll be able to get through all 2,000 hours or not?
Eric will.
Oh, Eric, I don't hold him being on NCIS against him. Oh, please, NCIS. I'm sorry, NCIS is a fun show. Mark Harmon was awesome in that show, and it gave David McCallum basically a second career as the irascible Ducky. I mean, he was fantastic. He was as much of a co-star as anybody else, and seeing him play off of Mark Harmon was just so much fun.
Well, it's good to see these actors actually still getting a chance to act, because usually they retire. And they do maybe a TV movie here and there, and then they're done.
Yeah.
And Steve, he was going in his 70s, still acting.
Oh, I mean, I want to say actually his last episode of NCIS was probably 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm positive that he was into his 80s, doing NCIS.
So I look at
Dick Van Dyke. Yes, Melania. I'll give Eric the Gibbs smack on the back of the head for that one.
Use the shoe like the old Italian women.
Yeah. Oh no, it was an NCIS thing that he would always do to DiNozzo mostly. He said something inappropriate or something funny. He would just smack him on the back of the head.
So you know what this means, though? If this guy just passed away, 2 more are going to pass away.
Oh, let's not go down that.
I won't. I don't want to, but I'm just saying that's usually how it goes.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure that. Well, again, here's the thing about that is, it happens because there are so many more celebrities or people we consider celebrities. And on average, people are still, living longer. I mean, essentially kind of like, once you get out of your 20s, the chances that you're going to live to your 70s or whatever is, extremely great in this day and age. And those kind of 2 factors, I mean, I know I've thought a time or two, it's like, God, all these, celebs dying or whatever, but it's kind of like, well, yeah, because I mean, these were all the people that I watched, growing up, and I'm this age now, and they're at least 20 plus than that, so it just it's
think about that
nature. It's the nature of life.
Mr. T, you're gonna have eventually Don Johnson. I mean, all the good celebrities that we enjoyed watching,
Yeah, and on that happy note,
happy notes. Before we get attacked by Dave's Italian grandmother with a heavy wooden spoon or rolling spin, not much going on tonight. I mean, for this channel going on, I do think that Elise Engeltine will be doing something, maybe in an hour or so. I'm not sure. But look out for that over on I Love Comics. And then at 11 p.m. tonight, Ash, Zach, and I will be over on Ashley Comics channel. And we'll be talking about, well, I believe it's Batman and Robin book that came out. And then, what was the other book he posted in the chat? Or not chat, but
I mean, I'm
Twitter.
Going to assume probably you guys are going to talk about Big Game number 3.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, Captain America was the other one. So, but yeah. So, all right.
I will say as we finish up, if people haven't been reading Big Game, and if you've read any of the Miller-verse books, and going back now, I guess you'd say decades, because I mean it's characters from Wanted, it's characters from Kingsman, Secret Service, it's characters from Kick-Ass, the entire Miller-verse. It's been fantastic the way that he has weaved all of these characters together and has cut a swath, shall we say, through his various creations.
Okay, so apparently I was going through our Twitter feed here. It looks like tonight's subject on I Love Comics is basically Dan Slott telling he needs to shut up.
You talking about Dan again? Yeah, well, I know that...
so Eric will not be there.
Whoever, I forget whoever Astrobots is.
That's Jay Lucen.
Oh, is that Jay? Okay.
Yeah, he's in there with both belts.
I know he posted it. I saw it earlier. Yeah, Wes did a video. That's the one he posted in the chat.
Yeah.
There about Dan Slott, I guess, popping off again.
Yeah. There's a few people I follow on Twitter that are like basically Spider-Man stands. They love the Mary Jane marriage stuff, and they've been showing like how Dan Slott has them blocked, but yet he's quote tweeting them and talking about them. It's funny. It's like they said, like Dan's more obsessed with basically quote tweeting me than he is about writing good comic books.
Yeah. I think at this point, Slott's best days are behind him. That he has basically completely lost the plot and has gotten just completely wrapped.
I would say his best day is
Twitter stuff.
Yeah, his best days to me was when he was writing She-Hulk. That first run he did on there.
Yeah, well, that's good. And I've mentioned kind of multiple times. I mean, one of my favorite Spider-Man stories is a Dan Slott story. It's the Spider-Man Human Torch miniseries, where it basically goes through and kind of talks about the history and the relationship between these two guys, and come to find out that all the the joshing and kind of the rivalry was partially because each one envied the other. Each one thought, oh, hey, you have this, this great life because you've got an aunt that loves you. You've got this amazing, you've got this amazing wife. You've got everything. And then Spidey's going like, well, no, you've got everything. You've got this fantastic family. Everybody likes you. You don't have to hide. And the realization, as I say too, I mean, the final page of that miniseries is just amazing when basically the Parker family and the Richards family get together at the penthouse of the Baxter building.
So basically, Dan Slott did a book about praising the Spider-Man marriage. Now he says it was never important. No one cared about it. It wasn't a selling feature.
Well, some of us still care about it. Some of us would like to see Peter grow up to be a teacher.
Civil War, when he was teaching at the science teacher, and then Flash Thompson was a gym teacher. I mean, that was peak level for Peter Parker there. He's married, he's happy. And then they're like, oh, we're just going to reveal your identity to the world. And I was like, no. That's when they just basically kicked him in the nuts. Actually, it felt like they had Aunt May kick him in the nuts and says, like, you're forever my bitch, Peter. You have to give up everything for me. I was just like, kill Aunt May, let her go. We don't need it anymore. We can move on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, not to drag out the string here, but it's because you've got a current crop of writers that don't know how to write happy relationships. Pure and simple. Yeah. There is zero excuse. I don't buy for a fact of, oh, we can't write good stories if he's happily married to MJ. It's like, no, BS. You can absolutely do that. People have done it throughout history. And I hate that trope, and it shows just how limited somebody is in terms of their creativity. If you can't, write a good story when your characters are happy, that's a you problem, not a character creation problem.
Yeah, but we'll continue this conversation on Ryan I Love Comics, and I'm sure joining us over there.
Yeah, I'm down here already. I might as well hang out for a little bit longer.
we're gonna sign off now. I'm gonna go grab some dinner before I can't because the streams.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks for letting me show off my haul here. So it's fun sharing, and I know people always like seeing these kinds of things. So.
Oh, we always like having you on the channel. Well, we miss you. The last time I was here, you were the Gray Man.
That's right.
Yeah. With the Netflix show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you something. I mean, I think at some point you guys need to read Justice League of America 195, 96, and 97. So.
Is that you're saying that's how we'll get you back on the channel?
Well, if nothing else, you'll need me because there's only about 40 characters across the issues. So because it's the JLA and the JSA going up against the villains of Earth 1 and Earth 2. So you'll need a lot of voices for that one.
We just read 159 last night with the Earth 2 and the Earth 1. The little annual get together attacked by Jonah Hex and his group.
Yeah.
Fun book.
Yep.
So thinking about doing 160 next week, but holy crap, that Fantastic Four book we read, only number 1, it went for 2 hours. It was a 2-hour live stream. And everyone in the panel, dude, go watch it back. Everyone's complaining towards the end. It's like, when will this end? But honestly, though, I'm watching the number of views going up on that because people, I don't know if it's because we went long, if it's Fantastic Four or if it's Namor or the fact we went longer or just because you hear people actively complaining about.
Or it's the vocal stylings of Eric Breen. Just one of those is attracting the folks.
Yeah.
So I was just going to ask, wrapping up. So have you done a Chris Claremont book yet?
I'm trying to think. We do X-Men 146 or somewhere around there. Is it with we're about to go into Murder World.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that might be Byrne. I'm not thinking I don't think it's Claremont.
Well, no, I mean Claremont was on it pretty much from Giant Size number 1.
Because we've been going from X-Men. We did 1 through 8, the original,
right?
First series, and then we did. I think it was 145. That's
okay.
What we did.
Okay, because I was going to say
it's where Storm's friend gets kidnapped. And then they go to Latveria.
Okay.
With Dr. Doom.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I mean, depending on which Claremont book you find, I could see that going 2 hours or 3 hours.
It's weird because that was the first annual that Kirby and Stan did for Fantasy Four, and it was like 54 pages or something like that, just for the story alone, or 34. So, and as you look at the next couple of annuals, it drops down as far as the main story. They just have more of the backup reprints. So it's like, they kind of realize, like, yeah, we wrote too much.
Well, I mean, I definitely know, like, if you did the Savage Land stories, which I think are the 120s.
Yeah.
If nothing else, Eric would definitely get a workout because there's a lot of narration.
Oh, the thing is that we don't always have the narration now because now we have Trusty on. So we always have our Stan Lee impersonator.
There you go.
But he enjoys it, though. I said, like, man, that's the one thing. When we do the reading here, and I find somebody likes doing a certain role, I let them do that role as long as everyone else is happy. And that's that way we're all happy, we're all having fun until we go past the 2-hour mark and everybody complains at me. Why did you choose this one?
All right.
But I'll see you guys later, guys. Thank you for joining. And as always, if you haven't already done so, please click like, subscribe, please. We're getting closer to 500, and then we'll be able to apply for monetization over here. Kind of cool.
Woo-hoo.
I know, right? We'll actually make like 23 cents per video.
Yeah, well, monetization first, and then eventually you'll be able to get the memberships.
That too. You guys want to get the members only checklist with your memberships? With the Geeky Puppet Show logo on the back.
Yeah. Now, of course, you'll have to figure out what benefits the membership will have, but
I think. Well, I'm thinking what we're gonna start doing is we're gonna start editing some of the live streams, or on the readings, and what we'll do is we'll put the bloopers, whatever, or unedited on the memberships. So if you want to see behind the scenes,
there you go,
something like that. But that's when we actually can afford an editor. Until then, so once we get the channel built up and actually have recurring stuff. But thank you guys for showing up, and we'll see you. Well, I'll see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central, along with Zach for the top 5. Later, guys.